I think community goes further than just a bunch of people being at your event. It's that community or you having a certain follower count. Like, I think I've stopped looking at my follow count too much. I think in my head I'm like, what's the impact though? And I think that's also why with pivoting, I made the choice, for example, like if you follow Kollab between like 2024, I did a lot of like quite big events, like quite large scale events with like a lot of people.
So, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of The Student Guide, where we bring on amazing people doing amazing things so you can learn about amazing topics. We are speedily making our way through season 9, which is wild to think. We're slowly approaching that 100 mark, but we've got another exciting episode today. As you know, I do not like doing introductions. I think it's best for us to hear from these incredible speakers themselves. So instead, I'm going to hand over to today's guest. Hello, Sophie. Thank you for coming onto the show. Could we know a bit more about you and what you do?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Sophie Orinde. My pronouns are she, her. I'm 24 years old and I'm the founder of the Kollab Network. And we are a creative careers hub dedicated to amplifying the voices of emerging creatives and supporting them with getting paid opportunities through workshops, job listings, and more.
Perfect. This is like a random tip. I thought you were older. Anyways, we'll dive into this.
People are always surprised that I'm 24, but I'm only 24. People always think you're like, oh, I thought you're like 27, 28, 29.
Because you're doing like we'll dive into all the incredible stuff that you're doing, but you're doing a lot. We're going to start off actually with our 44 question segment, which is brought to you by Amanda from 44 Words, where she submits a question for us to get to know our guests in a more creative way.
Very nice.
Now, this one is a tough one because it's a two-parter. So, what's your vision for the future of the creative economy is the first part. And then what initiatives or changes would you like to see implemented and how do you envision contributing to that vision? So let's start off with, what's your vision for the future of the creative community?
That's a big question. I think my vision is for emerging creatives, especially those from particularly working class backgrounds, to no longer feel as though the background they come from can stop them from actually pursuing a very fruitful career in the industry. I think I find that for a lot of creatives, especially creatives who are working class or creatives who are from other diverse backgrounds, for a lot of them, actually building a creative career can seem like such a distant reality. For a lot of them, especially from young, you're encouraged to pursue a very traditional career path, like be a doctor, be a lawyer. And I understand that for a lot of our parents, maybe for them, it's about survival, or it's about, for them, they don't see the creative industry as fruitful enough. And I guess understandably so, if you look at the creative economy, for a lot of, especially freelancers and sole traders, for a lot of us, or for people who are doing that, like the industry can be be a lot of like fluctuations. There can be a lack of stability, a lack of like steady income. So I think for a lot of people, they'd probably feel like pursuing their creative passion is something that they can't do or something that isn't lucrative enough for them. But I think I'm kind of existing here to change that. I also think as well, my vision and my mission is for diversity in the creative industry to go beyond mentorship programs and to be more about us actually, getting more Black, more diverse, more queer creatives in spaces in leadership roles. Get us around the table and get us a seat at the table. Because I think the mentorship programs are great. I'm not going to sit here and dismiss that. But I do recognize that for a lot of creatives, I think a lot of the initiatives that exist can be for optics or for ticking a box. And it's like, beyond that, what experience or support do you get? Are you able to be a manager or be a leader in this sector? Are you able to actually create a steady income for yourself? Or is it just about you being a part of a program for 12 weeks and that's it? I think I'm just mindful of the fact that, what goes beyond that? Because I'm not saying, obviously I love a mentoring program. I've run a few myself in my own career, but I'm kind of like, what's next after that for you? What actually is going to get you the seat at the table or get you part of like a more like senior standpoint in the creative industry?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you the second question, but before I do that, I definitely agree with you because we had, I don't remember which podcast, my apologies if the guest is watching this, but there was a podcast guest we were talking about essentially, I remember, it was Lucia. We were talking about essentially how in the creative industries, there definitely seems like there's a lot of like this, like we'll support you, like, entry level, getting in there like super early. But then there isn't necessarily like okay, once you're in the door, what's next? Or like, how do you feel like empowered and supported to continue your creative journey afterwards? And like you said, like, getting into senior management, if you're running a business, like what do you need to be aware of operating in the creative industries?
100%.
So yeah, more spaces existing like that is really important. And very quickly, to just do a little plug, that's one of the reasons. So I may have mentioned in the last season that we were working on this like program that we wanted to do. And the whole idea about it was we wanted it to be not only are you like learning, but it's like the 3 months afterwards where you're technically alumni, we're giving you like paid opportunities. So it'd be like, okay, cool. So if you run an events company and you support, I don't know, like... you address like loneliness for young people, or let's say you address loneliness in general. We find corporate sponsors who are like interested in our program and want to support like emerging businesses. And it's like, cool, great. So you want to host an event? Cool. We'll connect you with this person so you can then like work together and then you can build your creative career. So we'll take a commission rate, but then the creative's getting paid. They're using the lessons that have been taught to actually like get money, and then we just basically open the door for them. So it's less of like, oh, cool, we've given you the tools, like figure out the creative industries for yourself. Yeah. But it's like, actually, no, like let's figure out how you can actually, like you might need help to just get that initial booking. But then great, once you've got your first booking, then it's just building your portfolio. And whether that's with the same organization or a different one, we just help people to do that.
I think that's really important. And I think that's such a great thing that you're doing. Because I do think that even if you can't give a creative a paid opportunity after, that's kind of like, that's the ideal, really. But I think if you can still kind of give them that long-term support afterwards, they can feel a lot less discarded.
100%.
I think some programs, a lot of creatives I know have spoken to me about how they'll do a program, get that nice picture, but then afterwards, where's the support? Or afterwards, like, what is the follow-up? Are you able to access their spaces? As a company, can you offer mentorship once a week or once a month? Can you, like, what can you do? There's more you can do as a company. You have the resource, just about actually having that care and that drive to support. So
100%.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah. Which I guess, if you feel like you've answered this, let me know and we can jump into the first official question. But second part about what initiatives or changes would you like to see implemented and how do you see this contributing to the vision of, like you said, like, not just like the mentoring, but also that long-term support. How do you envision these initiatives or changes you want to see implemented contributing towards that?
I mean, I think it is a tough one because I think it's easy to say create more programs or give creatives more funding, but I understand that that's not how the industry works. It's not as binary or as simplistic as that. However, I do think definitely there being more investment in the creative industry is a huge step forward. I think definitely the long-term support is a huge thing. I think, are you asking me what I do to contribute to that?
The changes or initiatives can be either yourself, it can be others, it can be industry-wide.
I mean, Kollab, we've been trying to really kind of ensure that we actually create quite a wholesome community that actually does stay in touch with each other and does kind of keep that support going. So we launched our accountability program, which obviously is marketed at 6 weeks, but obviously beyond that, we still support the people that are part of the program long term and kind of, again, foster that community where wherever you're hosting, like, share it with us, we'll share it along. We'll still kind of stay checking in with you, making sure that you're doing well. And anytime I see any opportunities that could be fitting for you, I'll either put your name forward or I'll share it along with you. So kind of fostering that sense of community. So yeah, I think running that has been really good and it's been really quite like helpful for me to kind of remember that, yeah, you know what? I think long-term support is so important. I think not just it being the 6 week, but what goes beyond that, what's the follow-up? So I definitely think that is really supporting us and ensuring that programs don't feel tokenistic and actually feel like impactful.
No, I definitely agree. Because I think that is incredible because actually, you know, if we're linking to your name, literally matches with your name. You're creating collaboration and building long-term growth. We're going to get started with the first official question, and this is essentially the why. So, you mentioned that you've built the Kollab network to help young creatives break into the industry through programs, networking, job opportunities, mentorship. What was the moment that you realized that the gap was bigger than just finding a job, and how did you turn that insight into action?
Good question. I think a lot of it probably came from like personal experience. So back in 2020 when I started, I actually wanted to be a writer.
Okay.
So I wanted to be a writer, and I remember like trying to actively search opportunities. Obviously that was a time literally right before COVID. So I remember like looking at like jobs pages for writers, and I remember looking at a lot of these roles and seeing, oh, they need somebody who's mid-level or mid to senior level, or in terms of like a lot of the writing programs, they were not available, or a lot of them had just closed applications. I was quite limited in number. I think to myself, oh gosh, like I want to be a writer, I want to kind of get myself out there, but it seems like opportunities are pretty scarce. And I also found that as well in terms of diversity, when I was connecting with other writers, a lot of the time they didn't really look like me. There was a lack of like similarity or connection. And that's not to say that you can't connect to people that don't look like you, but I think there is something powerful in having people that mirror your experiences, both in like an identity sense, but also in like a professional sense. So I think I was kind of like, oh, okay, I need more diversity. I have met a lot of creative people who all share the same sentiments. So what can I actually do to change that? So I started it off, and it literally became like a bit of a shout out page. I was just shouting. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, I know we've got like maybe 400 posts, but if you go all the way down to the bottom on Instagram, it was a shout out page.
Oh, nice.
Shouting out my friends, shouting out people that I knew, shouting out people that were doing really cool things. And it just became a really authentic community. And people would then start messaging me saying, oh, can I be shared on here? Here's my work. Like, and it grew really quickly. Like, we literally gained like quite a few followers very soon after we started. And then, of course, COVID happened. So my idea to do events was kind of put on pause. But I was like, okay, how can I still kind of foster this community? So I started doing Instagram Lives. That was the time of Instagram Lives. Everyone was doing Instagram Lives. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, like, so how can I continue making this more of a community? And then, of course, people then, instead of like them sharing their profiles of me to be shared, they started sharing their like job roles. So people were kind of looking for like virtual assistants or like virtual writers, or people were still very much trying to foster connection online. So from there, I just started kind of sharing more like jobs, sharing like opportunities, like very much for free. Because I was like, okay, let's see how this goes. And then from there, it just built, like, again, people were very interested. And I was like, wow, okay. So again, people, especially looking for like entry-level roles, that's a very quite like, a lot of people kind of were saying that, yeah, a lot of the pages that I do follow, they require a lot of experience. But of course, if you're a student who's just starting out, you haven't got that experience yet. 100%. So from there, literally just kind of took off, really. And then I kind of found like my niche, and I realized that, you know what, there's actually a need for this, and I actually can get paid for this as well. Because again, I think realizing that I could be paid to do this was quite a surprise to me. I was like, wow, I can actually be paid to share things and share listings and connect businesses of their potential talent. So again, it kind of just went from there. And I think, yeah, it all really started just from like my own sort of experience of needing a space, needing a community, needing that experience. And from there, it just kind of grew quite organically as well.
Yeah, I really love that. I think there's many a thing to unpack there, but I think one of the things that I love is, like you mentioned, how your like business like changed. Because I think everyone kind of thinks that like whatever you're doing is what you're sticking to. So whatever you started with, you have to follow through until the end.
Yeah.
And I like that you shared there that, you know, that wasn't necessarily the case with you. It's definitely not the case with myself. It's not the case with, to be fair, any business. But I like that you, like you mentioned that it's okay to like pivot and change into what you want to do.
It's okay to, and I think also, being able to be adaptable is actually a really key skill. Because I understand that people have this idea around like, if you've got an idea, stick to it, be dedicated. Yes. However, I think if you recognize that a certain area is not working, I think there's no harm in switching it up and kind of like adopting new ideas. And I think for me, I saw it as research. I'm like, okay, if it doesn't work out, then I've researched it, tried it, didn't work. What insight can I gain from that to make my business better? So I think you have to see it as research and see it as you're just learning insights about what works. And of course, I think where the creative industry is constantly changing, I feel like there's going to be constant flux all the time. I think you have to be adaptable in this industry. You have to be willing to change. So
100%. And I think, like you mentioned, with the creative industries, like it's not an easy industry to get into. I literally had this conversation with my manager about, especially for underrepresented people, it just gets worse. And like you said, the higher you go, so more like senior management,
the less you see.
The less you see, 100%.
The less you
so
see.
I love that, you know, through the work that you're doing, you're also showcasing to people that like, hey, like you're not alone, you're creating this. Like you said, I think community was on an accelerator program. We were talking about like, we were doing a pitch and the person who was leading it was just like, oh, like, he's not saying he has an issue with the word community, but he says sometimes community can sometimes feel like a buzzword. Like everyone's just like, oh, cool, I'm slapping community onto everything that I'm doing. But he was just like, no, like, community, and in your case, you know, an authentic community is something that is really key. And he was saying like people just need to really understand that like just because there's a difference between like a community you built and customers. Because your customers may not be your community. Yeah. Your customers are people that may be like, cool, I'm going to buy into whatever I'll buy whatever you're selling, but I don't necessarily need to like be a follower. I don't need to, you know, turn up to your events, you know, just like your posts. I'm just there to just like sign up and enjoy my journey. But your community, like you said, especially an authentic community, are the ones that will like show up to your events. They're the ones that will engage with your platform. They'll join your, you know, newsletter and submit stuff. And I love that with your journey, you've been able to showcase like, you've been able to build not only a community, but one that's actually authentic and engaged in what you do.
Thank you. I agree. And I think it's something that I've thought about as well, because I'm like, okay, I think community goes further than just a bunch of people being at your event. It's that community or you having a certain follower count. Like, I think I've stopped looking at my follow count too much. I think in my head, I'm like, what's the impact though? And I think that's also why with pivoting, I made the choice, for example, like, if you follow Kollab between like 2024, I did a lot of like quite big events, like quite large scale events with like a lot of people. And I realized like, what's the impact of that though? People don't really talk, people are talking and connecting, but there's not really a shared sense of like, why you're all here sort of thing. Like, 100%. I think the big events were great because they got us money, we were more visible, but then I had to kind of scale it back and pivot, and I decided to kind of like actually foster more intimate spaces. And from there, that was real community. I had the same people showing up every month. I was more consistent. I was able to save more money because big events were expensive. And also I was able to actually kind of like build a community of regular people who are coming to our events every month, whether it was like a social or a debate night or a networking evening or a headshot evening. Like I had the same people showing up. And that was real community. People actually made friends. So, yeah.
No, 100%. And I think even that is like, again, that's beautiful. Because I think a lot of people feel like you said, like you need to have the big following. You need to have like, if you're doing an event, if you don't have a high number of people, like your
then
event's
it flops.
awful. Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think like, even like in our case, so we do, a perfect example is we do a Women's History Month and a Black History Month event every March and October throughout the whole year. And that literally just came about from just a conversation at my uni. And I was just like, cool, I want to put on an event. This is the first pick-up mic event we'd ever done. And like you said, like, I was just like, cool, we need to like get loads of numbers, get loads of people in the room. And every time we do it, I'm always like that. But then it's interesting because I see like when we do the event, sometimes, yes, we do get like the maximum capacity, which is great. Sometimes we'll get like maybe a bit smaller than that. And it's great because I've always said, whether you're doing an event for like 20 people, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000, this ultimate experience should be the same. Yeah. And it should be like, I'm going and I'm making this event as great as it can be. Yeah. And we've seen like through these events, we've had great, like you said, about impact, great impact. So whether it's like the connections made, you know, from our Women's History Month event, I want to say in 2020, it must have been 2024, we saw someone get employed from that. So she connected with one of the panelists. The panelist, she connected with one of the panelists.
I was just finished what you said. I was like, oh my God,
So the panelist was just like, let's keep in touch. I love what you're doing. Then she was just like, I've actually got a job that's coming up with my company. I think you should apply. And then she got employed. And I didn't even know this. I literally just met the panelist like months later. And she was like, yeah, you know that event you did? Like, thanks for that. Because I ended up employing someone. I was like, that's really great. Even with the women's, like with our Black History Month event, you know, we've seen people collaborate outside of just like us basically doing the event. So for me, I love that because I'm just like, I love being a facilitator. A lot of people know me. I'm probably introducing one person to someone at least, if not every day.
That's me just like 20 minutes ago. And I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Because I think I wanted to touch on a point that you said around like when you talked about whether it's a small number of people or a lot of people, the impact should be the same. I think that is such a beautiful way to put it because I remember the first event I ever hosted was like a careers headshot, speed mentoring sort of workshop. And I remember I put out tickets and 30 people signed up to the event and only like 9 came on the day. And on the day, I remember being so embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, 9 people came. 2 of them are my best friends. So I was just like, damn, like, that's really embarrassing. But I was like, but is it though? Because everybody who came to the event left with something. Everybody who came to the event got headshots, able to network. One person even gained a mentor.
Wow.
Like, another person used that picture, headshot that he got for like his promotion for his album, like, or EP. I don't know the difference. But like, I was like, do you know what? The concept of impact is really important. I think I could look at that and think, okay, if 30 people came, that was successful. But if nobody gained anything, then is that really success? But I think in that space where I had like 9, 10 people, it was no more than 11. It was a very small number, but everybody left with something. Like, I think it was really important. I think also for me, I had to remember that was my first ever event. The reality is there's so much that you learn from these things because at the time, I obviously have grown so much in terms of understanding like structure and how to structure an event, how to lay it out. I know if I had all 30 people come, I would not have been able to necessarily manage that because I was still very new to things and how I laid it out, it was quite chaotic. However, the ones we've done after that, I've had 40, 50 people come to my events, 60 people come to my events, but I've gained the experience to know how to run events now.
100%.
So I think sometimes also about knowing what you can manage
no,
and working with a small number. And now that I can work with a small number, you can work with an even bigger number and more and more and more. But I think focusing on numbers, you kind of don't see that growth. So, yeah.
100%. There are 2 things that I just realised from what you said. First, which I didn't actually clock. So I was just like, you're 24 now, so that means you must have started when you were, if correct me if I'm wrong, you were 18?
Yeah.
Wow.
18, I was, that's the thing, because like, when I was doing these events at the very beginning, not who I think I was, but it's like, the experience that I know now is so different. Like, I know so much of events now. I feel like I'm quite good with events now. Well, the size that I can manage. But it's like, again, it's about, you don't have to rush to know everything. Take your time to learn. And I think in the creative industry, I think deep down, all of us want to be like in a microwave. What needs to be quick. We want the quick results, the fast following, this, that. But I had to learn how to master the art of running a good event. That wasn't something that I learned overnight. It took years for me to know that. 100%. So I think you have to really kind of like be patient with that process and 100%. Understand that's going to take a while. So
yeah, definitely. And I think, like you said there, that there is an art, like once you have mastered like smaller gatherings, like it's literally just replicating the same thing over and over, but just with bigger people. Because I know there was, his name is Topper. He runs an organization called The Sit Down. But like he was saying,
oh yes, I must have seen that. Yeah.
So he was saying like with his events, he did a talk and was talking about like how he like gets like partnerships and all of this stuff. And he was just like, oh, like no matter what I'm doing, I ensure that like the curated space is great. So if I'm doing an event and it's got 100 people, or if I'm doing an event and it's got like 1,000 people or 50 people or whatever. He's just like, I always make sure that space is both like sacred, but also like it's worthwhile for whoever's coming. He's just like, I don't know like what this person's given up to be at my event. They may have missed out on like going out with friends. They may be like, I'm trying to build a connection, meet new people, find a mentor. And he was just like, you need to ensure that your spaces are meeting the needs of your people. And it's just like really clear what why. Like, if people may say it sounds kind of harsh, but ultimately it's like, why would I go to your event over like someone else's event? Especially like, let's be honest, if it's a Friday night, like someone will be like, I could be either at home, I could be going out with friends, I could be doing something else. So it's just like, why would I go to your event? And really understanding that and like, what's the benefit, like you were saying before, about like going and the impact.
What's the value?
Exactly, 100%. We're going to go on to the next question.
That was quite a long-winded answer, but it was a good discussion.
I loved it.
Discussion.
So this is about going from opportunities to outcomes. So as you mentioned, you've built a real community with Kollab. You've got thousands in the network, hundreds of opportunities being accessed. What have you found to be the most effective way you've helped entry-level creatives move from just being talented to being paid?
That's a good question. I think I would always say, mastering the essentials. Okay. Because I think there are a lot of creatives who are really talented, but I think a lot of creatives don't know the essentials. So even something as simple as like I remember there's a photographer that I worked with a few years ago. He was really, really great. He captured my event, but he didn't know what an invoice was. And he was like, oh, like, here's my bank details on Instagram DM. Boom, here's the price. Yeah. And I was like, thank you. Love the work, but I'm registered by HMRC. I need an invoice. I can't just pay you without an invoice. And he was like, I don't know what that is. And then I was like, first of all, like, I appreciate you being so honest and saying you don't know what it is. How about I make you a template and like from there we can just talk through how to do it and then send me one. And from there he was like, thank you so much, because like I don't know what that was. And that was an essential thing you need to know. I think marketing essentials is a great way to actually be paid. Because I think for a lot of creatives, understanding things like how to price yourself correctly, how to write a correct invoice and set clear payment terms, how to actually write and structure proper emails, how to actually structure and like create a LinkedIn that's going to attract more paid opportunities for you. Like a lot of creatives don't know these things. So I think actually making that very accessible through our workshops, our free resources, etc. People have actually been like, do you know what? Through that, I've been able to actually access this opportunity or get paid from this company or be able to kind of set a firm boundary and actually assert myself in X way. So I think definitely like having that was a really important thing for us.
No, I think, first of all, I think you're right, because I think there is a lot, like with creatives, especially the pricing yourself. I think that's the one thing like creatives always struggle with. And usually it stops being like this is my price. This is like, if you need me to do X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, either what's your budget and I'll work with it, or it's like, oh, cool, like, just pay me what you can. And with both of those, and like through this, I was on an accelerator, and through that, the person was talking about it, and she was like, look, like if the engineer who's going to come to your, let's say you've got something wrong with your house, you're going in to get an engineer to fix something. The engineer's not going to rock up and be like, what's your budget?
Yeah.
Like your I don't know, your electrics aren't working. I'm going to have to fix the fuse box. What's your budget that you're working with? He's like, no, it's going to cost you this from the get-go. Can you afford it? Yes or no? These are my hourly rates. This is everything. And she was just like, the engineer is confident in their ability, in their pricing, and understands like, I'm charging you this much because I know my skill and my talent is this good.
One thing about a plumber and an electrician, they can set a boundary. They know what they're charging because they know they can deliver.
100%. And they know that that's what they have to do. But with creatives, we're very much just sometimes like, I can like find ways to like work around, or like, which I think for a lot of creatives starting off, they're just like, oh, I'll just do X, Y, and Z for free, and that's perfectly fine. But I think like you said there, like, no, knowing like, okay, how, and I think this, like a cash flow statement, if you've never done it before, is actually something that I only recently started doing through this program. But they were just like, okay, cool. So with whatever service you're doing, how much does it cost to deliver this service? So think about, if you're traveling anywhere, like how much roughly do you spend on travel? Think about roughly like if you're paying for like an editing software and you're a videographer, how much does that software cost per month? Your camera, how much does that camera cost? Even if you're just like, oh, I'm not going to benchmark, like maybe it's an old camera, you might be like, I can't benchmark it against current prices, but you could be like, okay, cool. If you were to buy this camera either first hand or second hand, how much would it currently cost? And she was just like, once you know all of that can then help you to determine, because then you can be like, okay, well, I don't know, let's say I'm using Premiere Pro costs this much a month. I can then be like, well, 1 hour of using Premiere Pro and like getting everything set up, importing the projects, all of this, downloading everything, it's going to cost me this much. For myself, I will say I currently do not have a price list, which is funny based on this conversation. But
it's okay. I made one very recently.
Honestly, like it's being a creative.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm now going to be including with that is, whenever I share content, I do it through Google Drive, and I pay for like a 2 terabyte storage on Google Drive. So I'm like, that should also be included, because I'm just going to be sharing the person the work through there. So it's not just like, oh, hey, I'm pricing based off the video editing software, the camera, my time, all of this stuff. It's like, no, I'm actually including everything I need to deliver this service.
It's important.
100%. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, again, like you said, with the plumber, electrician, anyone who does like handiwork, they know that like, they're including their travel of like petrol in your pricing.
Everything is factored in. They factor in everything.
And they know that they need to be able to like pull this up. And that's why when you're slapped with like a high bill and you're like, why does it cost this much? They're always confident in their answer. They're just like, well, you know, doing an initial survey costs this much and all of this and all of that.
But I think as well with the creative industry, there's two reasons why I think people struggle with this. I think it's flashing red, is that okay? Let me just record.
Oh yeah, it's still recording. Yeah,
okay,
cool.
I think a lot of creatives is because I think there's no sort of like regulated sort of like HR or sort of formal body that can like necessarily support you if you have disputes around pay and also pricing yourself and knowing what's appropriate and what's not. Whereas like I guess a lot of Londoners, we go by London Living Wage or employee rights, like you have something a bit more formal. But I think for creatives, that's still in like the making. I also think as well, I think like the creative industry is quite undervalued in general. I think a lot of people have a tendency to really undervalue creative work, not realizing just how much it has to offer.
100%.
And I think that can then mean that a lot of creatives subconsciously will undervalue our own work because we think, oh, well, if you don't see it as a value, then neither will I.
No, 100%. Because I had an intern who was like amazing at photography and like he was working with me over the summer and it was just like really great. And I was just like, oh, cool. Like, tell me a bit about like your future plans, what you want to do. Like, it's been great working with you. Obviously, you're going back to uni. And he was just like, oh yeah, I want to think about like, I want to continue my photography. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, you've got a portfolio. This is great. Do you know your like pricing? So like, if someone's going to charge you, and he was just like, no, not really. And I was just like, okay, you need to think about that. And then so the first time he did photography for me, I was like, cool, like, do you photography? Can you do headshots? He was like, yeah, I can. I was like, sick. And he was like, I was like, do you need anything to do the headshots? Do you need like a backdrop? Do you need it? He was like, no, I just literally have a light ring. Just give me a corner. And as long as there's good lighting and I can have my light ring, it'll be good.
Wow.
His headshots are incredible. I have told him this. I have told everyone that I know.
Who is he?
His name is Josh. If you've seen this, he's actually been on this podcast before. He was in one of the episodes. But yeah, Josh, he was incredible with his headshots. And I was like, do you know how like because I know someone who paid like £600 for a photographer, and he basically had to have like a backdrop and he was just like, oh, I need like
more budget.
And this guy, Josh was just like, yeah, no, literally like I've literally got my square light, and my camera, and yeah, I can just like do it wherever. I was just like, do you know how like underutilized like that, how unique of a selling point that is? And I was just like, no, you need to like take that into account. That's an incredible skill to be able, and his editing time is incredible. This guy.
Turnaround time, I bet is amazing.
Turnaround time is amazing. Literally on the way home, he's just like, oh yeah, I'm putting it into Adobe Lightroom on my phone. I'm then gonna just like quickly edit it.
Even that, he could charge extra. 100%. One thing I've realized is people don't know. Like if you're approaching a new client, they're not gonna know what your charge person like.
They don't.
Not that you should make it up on this, but I found with certain clients, like if let's say you've been charging £50 for your headshots and you've been like undercharging yourself, and Apple comes and reaches out to you and says, hey, we've got a branded event, come and work with us. They're not going to know you've been charging £50. You can tell them you've been charging 1K. They're not going to know. And I think that's why you have to be tactical about having set prices, but also looking at who exactly you're charging and working out what their budget is, because I think what's also a problem is a lot of these big brands are not trying to pay creatives enough.
100%.
They're trying to cut corners, but it's like, sorry, you're a big brand, you've got the budget. I think you have to put your big boots on and ask them, what is your budget? Or kind of like be unafraid to ask, because the worst they can say is no.
No, 100%.
If you start high, you can go lower. Like, I started learning, okay, cool, let's say my budget, like my fee is a set price. Go a little bit higher. They might meet it, or just you might have to negotiate.
100%.
But I think when you develop a good habit of negotiating is a key skill that a lot of creatives need to have. Like negotiate.
No, 100%. And even like you're saying there, like I know there was a videographer friend of mine. She was just like, so what she does is she'll be like, this is her fee, and then when people are just like, whether this is too expensive or like it tends to be more the too expensive. She's just like, okay, cool. Well, if they propose a budget, so if they're just like, I don't know, she's like, for a day shoot, it will cost like, I don't know, let's say $750 for me to be there for you for like 4 hours. They might be like, $750 is too much. We could probably go with like 500, or maybe like we can only afford 250. She's like, okay, cool. If you can only afford 250, then these are the 3 things that I'm going to do. So that might be like, I can make a 1-minute reel for you. I can do 1 interview for you. But I'm only going to be at the event for like 2 hours and then I'm going to have to go because unfortunately you can't pay me the whole thing.
Yep.
So even like she was saying, like even if you don't have a pricing, like see what's out there that videographers are charging or photographers or whoever in your as a creative are charging. And then, like you said, like maybe you'll ask people like, oh, maybe I'll try with this person asking for £50 extra or like £100 extra. And then once they then say whether they can or can't afford it, you can then be like, well, you know, that's fine. What is your budget? If you can afford this much, I'm more than happy to agree to these terms and I can do these items for you. Yeah. And like I've done that before. I was just like to someone, I was just like to someone, look, this is how much it's going to cost for us to do photography and videography. They were just like, well, basically, unfortunately, you know, we can't afford this. And I was like, great. Given your proposed budget, I can only afford to give you like these kind of things. And then the advantage I would say with that is with that organization, I was just like, cool, what I'll do is I'll slap on a freebie just to be like, hey, this is for your first time client. I get you couldn't afford it. This is something we're going to add, which I didn't tell them about until the actual like sending them the edited stuff. And they were just like, oh, this is great. Thank you very much. So I even seen like that. So you could be like, oh, I'm only going to edit 30 videos, do a 1-minute reel and 1 edited interview. But then you could be like, actually, you know what? I'll also create, I don't know, like if you're great at Canva, or you could be like, I'm going to create a Canva post for you, or hey, I'll create like a TikTok using some of the like audio from the event that you didn't know that I recorded, but I recorded some of the speeches that took place. I'm going to create you a snapshot reel. Because sometimes people will then be like, oh wow, like this person did really great. And I know they added this for free. And then if they return as a client, you can be like, well, cool. Like if you can increase your budget, I can include this and I can make more.
Relationship.
Exactly. 100%. But yeah, we're now going to go into treasure talks, which is your time to shine. Because you need to let us know what your treasured item is and what it means to you.
Oh, so I didn't cheat. I actually didn't bring this intentionally. So I bought my necklaces, actually. They're not super expensive, but I wear them all the time. They're like gold plated, like, so they're not super expensive. They're like £30 each. But I think they're really important to me because I think I look back at all the videos that I've made of myself, starting out content, and I've always had these on. And I think there's something about, for me, like just having like your own signature thing that you always hold close to you. I think just kind of looking at who I was when I first bought the necklaces and seeing myself now, I'm like, wow, I've actually grown quite a bit. And I think the green one was one that I'm not wearing because I actually lost it. I don't know where it is. But the green one I bought like a year ago when my life was so different. Like I look at myself now and I'm like, wow, this was so different. Like such a different reality. I was in a completely different headspace, different role. Everything was so different. And I think, again, it's like a testament to how much I've grown because a year later, I'm still wearing it, but here I am now. Then this one I actually bought like in a shop in Shoreditch. And again, that day actually was a really tough day and I bought it to make myself feel better. But I think I have it because I'm like, you know what? That day's passed now. I'm better. Like, it was a tough day, but it's not a tough life. Like, I'm going to be okay. Yeah. So, again, I think I always buy jewellery to kind of, like, remind me of where I'm going. Yeah.
Okay. I have 2 questions. Which is your favourite necklace? And are you going to buy another necklace? And if you are, what would be the next necklace that you're going to get?
Ooh, that's hard. Probably my green one. Okay. I think because of, like, the place I bought it in, where I was just, I don't know, I just bought it because I was in a really, like, happier place. Yeah, probably that one. Okay. I think my next necklace, maybe when something really happy happens, I'll get another one. Okay. I do the same with tattoos, actually, because I've got a lotus on my arm. Okay. But I get tattoos when, like, when I'm, like, in a moment or season of growth. I got a lotus flower 4 years ago now.
Oh, nice.
4 years ago now. Okay. And I got it because the lotus flower represents, like, so you know how lotus flowers, they basically grow in really murky water and become something beautiful. So I thought it's kind of like a reflection of my life. Like, no matter where I've come from, I've still become something really beautiful. So I got that tattoo. Yeah. I'm getting another one in like 2 months. So I guess, again, same with tattoos and just to kind of like remind myself how much I've grown. Like, kind of like an ode to myself. Yeah. So, yeah.
I really love that. That's really nice. Can we know what the new tattoo's gonna be?
I'm still figuring out what it's gonna look like. I just have my tattoo artist. Yeah. When I go there, I'll figure it out, and maybe I'll be back to show you guys what it looks like.
To the conversation that we're having, And this interesting fact is from Creative Access. And they found that they did a survey and found that 81% of respondents said that financial barriers, so whether this is to do with living costs or commuting costs, have stopped them from applying for new roles. And 38% have said that those barriers have stopped them from accepting job offers in general. And the reason why I mention that is because we now go on to the next question about like designing confidence. And your work supports young people to build clarity and employability, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds. So what are two confidence blockers what are the two top confidence blockers that you see, and what practical skills can help people overcome them?
These are really good questions.
Thank you very much.
Confidence blockers I see. I think a first one I would say is, I think one of them is thinking that you need to have extremely fancy equipment or things to start. And another one I think is trying to fit in spaces that don't make sense for you. Because I think, I'll start with the second one. I think in the creative industry, there's definitely a bit of a pressure I've noticed for creatives to feel like they need to have a certain aesthetic, hang around with certain people. And I think that lack of confidence in yourself and being authentic to you, I think can be a huge blocker. Because I think a lot of people will try to squeeze themselves into boxes and spaces that aren't actually suited for them. 100%. I think a lot of creatives have a hard time accepting that you don't have to be cool to thrive in the industry, be yourself. I think a lot of creators want to be cool and want to be edgy and have the baggy pants and the sambas and being in Brick Lane. But you don't have to be that to be creative. You can just be yourself. I think developing your own authentic voice, your own authentic style, even something as small as like how you edit your videos, how you talk, like how you dress, be yourself. You don't have to have like all these things to excel in the industry. I would definitely say that. I think the first one was about like, I think a lot of creatives I've noticed definitely feel like they need to have the really expensive camera to start. They need to have all this equipment, all these things and know everything to start. But I actually think it's a beauty in starting out and not knowing everything, because it means you're able to learn and open to learning. But I think a lot of creatives I've met have been like, oh, I don't have this camera, I haven't got this equipment, I haven't got this, haven't got that. And again, I think with consumerism, I think it ties into capitalism and consumerism, because I think consumerism makes us feel like we have to have the latest trending thing and that we need to be up to date with what's going on and what's happening live on social media, but you don't. And I think especially with like things like content creation, I'm seeing a lot of content creators use their phones to make them thousands of pounds. So I think with that, for example, you don't need the latest equipment. You can, again, build up over time. And again, back to my point around like, you can build things up over time. You haven't got to have everything right now. You can learn and grow as you go. That's 100%. A really big one. But I think a lot of us feel like we need to have everything right now. 100%. But there's a beauty in the growth and the journey. You will learn as you go. 100%.
And I think, like you said, like there's someone that I know, her name is Lizzie, and she runs a business called In the Element, or it's called In the Element Studios or IT Studios. And her whole business proposition is she creates storytelling content for brands and founders through just using her iPhone. So she's just like, I just rock up to events. I will like come up with like a story or a narrative that we're going to tell through the content that we're capturing. And then she's like you said, she's just using her iPhone. She's not like buying like, I don't know, like expensive cameras, new lenses, all of this. And I agree with you. There's this massive misconception that as creatives, you have to like have the latest like equipment, all of this. Like I tell people, we didn't start like this. We started, first of all, we were doing it in the pandemic. So everyone was doing this. This was all on Zoom.
Zoom was that? The free subscription before they started making it 40-minute cap.
You know what's funny? So through my university, I got free Zoom. So basically,
Uni are really nice. Yeah, they really be helping. Like, wow.
Honestly, this is very quick sidebar, but it makes sense of the episode. So when I was at uni, I didn't know this until like everyone else was just like, Zoom's got a 40-minute subscription. And I was like, oh, I'm still a student. I'm using Zoom and my Zoom doesn't cap out after 40 minutes. And it turned out the university paid for unlimited Zoom subscriptions for all of their students to have.
Wow.
So we could join lectures, but then also if we were having like one-to-ones with lectures or like we were having one-to-ones as groups or whatever, I don't know if they intentionally did that or not, but I was just like, it worked.
In your favor.
100%. So I was using it to do all the podcast recordings and all of this. So it was funny because sometimes the guests would be like, oh, my Zoom is going to kick me out. And I was like, what do you mean it's going to kick you out? Like, I've been running this for ages.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, so through one of the interns I met, when we started to do more in-person recordings, the first set of interns I had, she worked in our film and media course, and I didn't know this, but through that course, they get access to rent like Brunel's like camera equipment as a part of their dissertations. So I just emailed them and was like, oh, cool. Like, hey guys, I do this thing. Like, I'm not a film or media TV student, but I was just like, this would be really good to like, this is what I'm doing. I'd love to do it. I was like, yeah, sure. Like, you can rent out the equipment. You just need to bring it back by this time. There may be periods where because you're not a film and TV student, we're going to have to prioritize them over you. And I was like, that's fine. So literally like a lot of the early times when we like using like camera setups, like, it was just through the university letting us use cameras for free. So I liked that because now it helped inform my decision on like buying cameras like post-uni or when we got fun. And that's the other thing. I think, like you mentioned, there's this huge misconception that as a creative, you need to like buy cameras like from the get-go.
Yeah.
And I was just like, sometimes, if like, especially if you're running a business, like wait for funding or like make enough sales that you can then be like, cool.
It's not always feasible.
100%. Like there's no rush. Like have it. And like you said about consumerism, my sister, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, is the person that like slaps my wrist. So I'm the type of person that I'm just like, this camera looks, maybe we need to upgrade the setting, you know? Get a new camera. Maybe buy this, buy that.
Oh my
And I'm like,
gosh.
oh, hey, what do you think about this? She's just like, but do you need it? And I was like, yeah, but I think, she's like, but no, but do you need it? And I was like, no, you're right. You're right. So she'll sometimes just be like, or if I do want to get it, she's like, cool, you can get it, but then you need to basically make enough sales that you can cover buying
back,
that.
yeah.
Exactly. So she was just like, once you've done that, like she's just like, create a pot, and you know, if you've got a business account or even if you've got a personal account, you can set up saving pots, and she was like, just do that. So make a pot and then just be like, cool. Once we've made like, I don't know, let's say I want to buy a new camera, it costs £500. She's like, once you've made enough sales to cover it, then yeah, you can get the camera, but you've gone with that intention of, if I want to get X, I need to do Y. Whereas like, I think sometimes with creators, we're like, so like, I know there are people that are just like, oh, I want to get into podcasting, Jeffrey, like, you know, do I need to buy the mics and this? And I'm just like, no, like, just, if you've got your phone, if your phone doesn't have enough storage, buy a portable SD card or a hard drive. I'm just like, just record it with your phone. And then, yeah, you can upgrade your settings as you go. If you've got a friend, so like a friend of mine who was doing podcasting, he literally was just using, like it was him and a group of friends. They all used their phones as their cameras. And then and they would just sometimes...
Because podcasting is expensive.
Podcasting is
I've got one with my friend, Dana. I love doing it, but wow.
Yeah, no.
The cost is because obviously studio time, editing software. It's expensive. Like, wow. But again, when you love something, you're willing to put in time. But again, it takes time. Like, we have to kind of plan this out for months before we kind of like put the money aside to 100%. Do it. So.
No, 100%. I definitely agree. And even like, that's one of the things that like, because like, a lot of people get surprised. Like, as you can see, this is not a studio. This is a meeting room. But I tell people like,
you can adapt.
Exactly. And like for us, like when we started, like the first time, to be fair, like I was using this, and that's another thing I would say. Find places. Like this is the end of my tangent. We will go back to the question.
No, it's okay.
But I say find places that you can like, especially if you are, and I've said this before, if you are between the ages of 18, especially 18 to 25, but 18 to 30, you are unaware of the amount of opportunities there are for you as a young creative. Because you've got spaces, so there's like Roundhouse Works, which is a co-work space in Camden. You can join there, but they have Roundhouse Studios where you can book like a podcast studio for like £2 an hour. Like you pay £20 a year between the ages of, I think, 13 and 25. But if you're between that age group, pay £20. Actually, you could, if you're looking for a studio, you could use that, to be fair.
Let me actually be taking some mental notes.
Because yeah, it's like if you're between the ages of, and it's not like, oh, you have to be based in anyone. As long as you're between the ages of 18 to 25 and your guest, if you're bringing a guest on, is between that age too, you can book into their studio for like £2 per hour that you use it, and then you just pay a yearly subscription of £20. Where's the other? Pirate Studios is another one. Like their podcast studio was super cheap. Again, Pirate Studios is a whole thing. I won't get into that. is a whole thing. But I would say if you just want entry level into like learning the professional, like if you're going to go to a full studio equipment, I always tell people go to these like smaller spaces that will give you this stuff at a significantly reduced rate. And even if you don't want to go into podcasting and you're just like, I'm kind of interested in it, I've got an idea for a podcast. I'm like, just sit down.
Just try.
Because like with this one, if you're like, I'm 26, all right? I say that because when I tell you that there were so many things for 25-year-olds that I didn't know about, that like when I hit 25 and I realized they're all gone, I was like, one of them, bearing in mind, was also, it's unfortunately closed, which is why I can't they're apparently going to open. It's called Creators House. They're based in Kentish Town. They offered free podcast studios.
Yeah, they're closing.
When I tell you, I live in North London. I lived in Kentish Town. I'd never heard of Creators House until after it closed.
Yeah.
I had started podcasting before it closed. So one of my friends was just like, oh, if you're into podcasting, why haven't you checked out Creators House? I was like, sick, I'll check it out, man. It should be good. And then I saw it was free for 18 to 25-year-olds. And then afterwards you paid like regular pricing. And I was just like, this is another one of those creative opportunities.
Things that you discover too late.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
it's frustrating.
100%. But no, I definitely agree. So long story short, make the most of all the stuff that you can do as a creator. Even if you're just like, I'm kind of interested in the creative industries, make the most of it. We've come to the last question, which actually is about your podcast.
Oh.
Yeah. So you explore culture, identity, and the things we're learning or unlearning as 20-something-year-olds. So, how has hosting these conversations shaped the way that you lead, build community, and define success for yourself?
I really like that you brought that up because I started Open Tabs with Anna literally in February.
Oh, wow.
So we actually recorded episodes like a few months ago, back in like last year. We obviously like officially launched this year. I think definitely it's been so integral to my growth. I think... Obviously, if you check it out, so Open Tabs, OPN, so no E, then tabs, space tabs. There's some things we do discuss that are quite non-conventional and things that a lot of people maybe are a bit scared to talk about. And I think for me, having the confidence to talk about that took a lot. I think as somebody who grew up quite shy, I didn't grow up very confident. I gained confidence in my teenage, early 20s years. So I think for me, like having the space to be my authentic self is something I really have needed. And I think it's really shaped me and shaped who I am today. And I think me and Anna are really close friends. So I think it's allowed us to kind of like grow our friendship even more and kind of like have that space to kind of like be authentic in ourselves. I think it's so important. I love it. And I think we always do like our tab of the week where we kind of always like share things that we've learned kind of like in the week. And it could be like an article we've read or like a documentary we've watched or a video essay. And again, I think it also encourages me to like read a bit more because I was always saying how a lot of my tabs of the week were kind of like TikToks. And I was like, wait, why is my news source TikTok? Why am I getting my opinions off of TikTok? Because it's actually allowed me to kind of think, okay, let me actually read a bit more, read more essays, watch more documentaries to kind of actually develop more independent thought because I think social media, it's got many benefits. I talk a lot about the benefits for creatives, but I think social media has unfortunately caused a lot of us to not think as much. Like you're kind of relying on what somebody else thinks to drive your opinion on stuff. So I think taking a backseat and actually reading things for yourself and actually asking yourself, what do you think, has really helped me. Because even before I say an opinion on that, I always ask myself, what am I actually saying? I think it's really encouraged me to kind of like actually craft and shape my own thoughts before I share things. Because I think that way, I don't want to like spread anything that's inaccurate. 100%. So I've been very conscious about if I am going to quote something, quote the exact thing. Or if I am going to make a point, me and Anna always are really big on like having facts. So we'll bring a statistic alongside it. So it's like, actually, like what I'm saying has got factual kind of like backing. I'm not just saying it out of my bum. Like I'm actually talking out of sense, but I think sometimes, it's reminding me to kind of do the importance of actually researching and fact checking before I say things. So, yeah.
You know, I love that because there are podcasts out there that are big that aren't doing that.
One day we will be up.
Because it is incredible that you guys, like you said, like you're just very conscious of the not only just like the platform that you have, but also like who you're going to interact with your content. And you're just like, oh yeah, I don't want to just be like, oh cool, like I've just seen this video. This is then purely, true. I'm just going to say whatever this is without like actually checking into it and being like, oh, is what this person's saying actually based on any like true format? Because I think I mean, again, this AI and misinformation could be a whole
But
conversation
it's scary
itself.
because then even as well, it's like AI is taking, in certain videos, I'm like, is that real? Like, obviously sometimes we do quote things that we have seen and we can say, okay, we haven't got the actual source, we're just by the way. But I think it has encouraged me to think, okay, if I am going to start a platform and start a community and audience, how much of what I'm saying is true? How much of what I'm saying is actually credible? And I think for a lot of people, if you are starting any sort of platform, ask yourself what do you stand for? What actually is true, and what are you actually feeding your audience?
100%. And it's true because even like outside of just like with podcasting, it's the same with when it comes to like business pitches. Because I've seen some, I'm not even talking about we could go into Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, that's the whole thing. But I'm saying like even like the more smaller ones with accelerators where people have been like, oh, like quoted a stat, or they've been like, oh, this is my target, like this audience is impacted in this way. And then they were told like, is this true? Like, they were just like,
what's your source?
Yeah. And they were just like, actually, and it's worse because my thing, like when you're going to reference, put up a stat on a slide or like in a talk or whatever, be aware that whoever you're talking to may be in that industry. And
they know what they're talking about.
And they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And I know that there was one, there was a pitch that I heard about that the person basically was just like, they basically were quotes. So I'll preface by, I won't go into the full story, on camera at least. But the person basically was just like, they wanted to spend funding on a specific thing because they just basically felt like this was where like the money would be best used. And they basically gave a quote and said like, there's not a lot of the thing that they wanted to get. There isn't a lot of like, of that in the industry, and they were just like, I just want to use the money to basically invest in this because it just makes the most sense. And one of the people on the panel was just like, I don't think that's true. Like, I know people in that industry. I can name like 3 or 4 of these people.
Yeah.
And then it became super awkward because then the person was just like, no, like was doubling down. And then the person was just like, I guess everyone in the room was just like, oh no, this feels kind of like weird. And it just instantly shifts. So I guess all in all, I'm trying to say as well, like, no, if you're going to say something, be able to back it up and be like where it's from. So like one of the stats that through like my part-time job, one of the stats that I love when we talk about like why our program exists to support like Black founders is because he uses, it's funny, I'm now saying I don't know where this quote is from. But there's this quote that basically says that like Black founders, I think the Black founders that get venture capital funding in the UK is like 0.2%. Oh. And then when it looks, and it gets worse for like Black female founders. I think it's like 0.02%.
Oh, wow.
But he uses that quote. And when I asked him about, like, he actually, funnily enough, was on this podcast, and I asked him about it, and I was like, he's like, yeah, you need to like be aware that like you can't just be saying things and not A, have the quotes to back it up, or B, know where these quotes are from. Because he said like people ask you, like, you can't be like, oh, I saw a report that said like Gen Z are struggling with X. He's just like, who said it? When did that report come out? So it's almost like really like you said, like fact checking where your information is coming from and being credible, 100%. We now come to passing the mic, which we won't, again, I always joke, we're not physically passing the mic, but we swap roles. So you get to ask me a question or a series of questions. Over to you.
I'd like to ask you, what is something you've enjoyed most about having this conversation?
Like today?
Yeah.
Ooh, I've never been asked specifically about the conversation I've had.
Like, is there a point that either of us made that you really kind of want to take away and explore further? Because you've had quite a fruitful discussion.
This was really good.
Yeah.
Ooh, that is a really good question. I would say, man, I've got to sit with that for a minute. I would say one key thing that I probably will take away and think about is definitely there's 2. I think it's like the power of authentic community and really like being intentional with it, because I think there is, like you said about like numbers. So I think sometimes people get lost in the stats, or if they're trying to get money or funding or sponsorship, they're just like, I need to prove there's a big audience, there's this, there's that. And I think like being able to say, actually, no, I've got an authentic audience. So like you said, I might not necessarily have like 100 or 1,000 people coming to every event that I host. But if I know that there's like a good solid core 20 to 30 people that if I dropped an event that's happening like in 2 weeks' time, they will be there because they're like, oh, I love the community you built. I want to be a part of it and all of that. I'm like, that's great. That makes me a happy person. And I think the second thing, which is kind of like what we talk about, which I am working on, and maybe probably not by the I don't know when this next episode is going to be recorded, so let me not try and force myself to have it ready for the next one. But I think, like you said, like pricing, because I think that was one of the things that, like, especially through that accelerator with the like, we're going to be doing a new service through Pick Up the Mic, and I was just like, let me do research to be able to figure out like how much we charge and all of this. And I think, like you said there, as a creative, it's really about knowing your pricing and like why you're charging that much, and then also having the like confidence to back it up, because like you said, I think especially when it comes to big brands, sometimes you'll just be like, oh, unfortunately, I'm like you said, like if Apple reach out, you may be like, oh, well, I'll take less money, but I've got the big name of Apple. But again, talking about pitches, I went to a pitch where someone worked with like a big arts institution, and then the people were just like, oh my days, like you worked with this arts institution, like they must have paid you loads. And they were just like, oh no, they paid me like this much. And they were just like, that's like, I'm sorry, like, yeah, it was like, you should have charged so much more, because what you're doing is bringing them a new audience that they actually haven't really, like, they don't get engagement for. And they were just like, you don't understand how powerful you are, like, as a negotiator you are, and you shouldn't feel like just because they're like, even if there was like, ultimately, even if you lost them as someone that you've worked with, yeah, it might be difficult, or maybe you might be upset, but like you can still ultimately say like you can use that as a reference point and be like, well, hey, you know, for the next arts institution, we actually were going to work with so-and-so, but you know, if you are more flexible with your budgets, we can do this. Or even if you're just like, hey, we will take a shorter cut, but then that then means we need to lock into doing like 3 events with you throughout the whole year, or, you know,
negotiate.
Exactly. And I think, actually, to be fair, I'd say if I like doing things in 3s. If I had to just say a third thing, it would be I would say negotiation is a powerful thing, because I think sometimes we're just like, it has to be a yes or a no. And I would say not even just like with a business. If you're creative, and this is something I've had to recently do, is like if you're going into like a job and you're just like, oh, cool, like they're just like, this is a salary. And you're like, oh, well, based on what's in the job description, or if you're, you know, hired as a freelancer, based on what you're being asked to do, that's like way below what you should be being like paid for. You can have the confidence to just be like, actually, you know what? I'm not going to, like, could you adjust the pay? Because if you really think about it, if you look at all these like stats and stuff, it actually showcases that I'll be actually taking on a lot. And I think there is power into that, to just be able to turn around and be like, hey, you know what? Like, I really appreciate all the stuff you're doing, but I cannot accept this because this isn't okay. And I know like there was a job that actually, it was funny enough, the job that I probably would have taken, because I'd applied for that job first before getting this one. And I had to step away, because in the contract, it was just like they would own the IP of anything I did similar to my job role. And because I was doing podcast.
Did you what?
Yeah, they would take. So in the contract, it basically said if I did anything that was relevant, like, it was basically like a trainee podcasting role. And they said anything I did outside of work that was like linked to my day job would be taken, like basically they would own the intellectual property of. And I was like, oh, well.
What?
I was like.
And that's why, it's really important to have things in writing and also read contracts, because a lot of creatives don't have things in writing. Things are very informally agreed, and then when there's problems, you've got nothing to kind of like fall back on.
100%.
But in your case as well, so if you are getting contracts from like these really big brands, read it
100%.
and actually read the terms to kind of know, okay, what are the stipulations here? Because again, a lot of these big brands will try and like swindle you, stuff like that. And then you may not realize it, and then you've actually been like in a problem. But obviously, where you've signed the contract now, you can't turn back.
100%.
So that's good that you read that and you paid attention to that.
No, 100%.
You could have accepted that and been like, oh yeah, but no.
No, 100%. And I literally told them, and they knew in the interview, I was like, look, so I'm doing Pick Up the Mic. And I even explained to them, I was like, look, we're not actually registered as a company at this time. Like, we've been just doing this as like a kind of like side hustle, like fun thing. And they were just like, oh no, it's cool. Like, it's in everyone's contract. This, that. And I was just like, this is kind of raising alarm bells. And I was like, so I spoke to my like entrepreneurial team, and they were just like, obviously we're not lawyers, but like based on what we've seen, like this sounds dodgy, we wouldn't go with it. Again, obviously legal fees is expensive, but if you have a friend that does law, they're not necessarily a lawyer, but they will know a bit of stuff. So yeah, I spoke to someone who was helping me with Pick Up the Mic, and I was like, look, like this is in my contract. I know you're not a lawyer, but you studied law. Like, what do you think about this? And she was just like, yeah, if you sign this, you are basically giving up control over Pick Up the Mic.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I asked them, I was like, look, could you remove this from my contract? Like, I don't want to give up the IP. This is something that is important to me. I want to build something with this. And they were just like, no, unfortunately we can't. It's something that's like stipulated in all staff's contracts. And I was like, well, if you're not going to remove it, I'm not going to sign it. I can't take this job. And it's been great. Like, I appreciate you offering it to me, but like, I'm not going to risk my business and something that I want to actually turn into something I'm doing full time just for like, and also I think the other thing I was just like, it's a role for a year. So I wasn't even going to be there for that long to then sign a... So like if it was something that was paying loads or like there was a big opportunity that came over it, or even if it was like guaranteed employment like for a long period of time, I would have been like, sure. But I was just like, it's a trainee role in podcasting. I already have a bit of podcasting experience anyways. And I was like, yeah, to just give up IP on something that I enjoy outside of work.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it, 100%. But yeah. Do you have any other questions you would like to ask?
I do. Another question is, what do you think your younger self would make of you today? What you're doing now?
Good question. Again, I've got to sit with this question as well. I think my younger self would be happy with what I do. I think he'd be surprised because I basically have like pivoted the longest with everything I've wanted, like with my whole career. So
the science part must be a science.
I did, but even that like changed significantly. So initially, this is also why like if you're like a comic book fan or like nerdy, like this is also why you need to be aware of the stuff. So initially, I was like, oh, I want to go into was it like bioengineering? Yeah, I was initially like, I want to go into bioengineering. And then basically, so I did my GCSEs, I was doing like the triple science and I did drama and history. I was like, cool, I'll go down that route. Like you said before about like being creative, like if I told my parents I was going into acting, that's a definite no. So I was like, but I did do drama like for GCSEs and I did school plays because I enjoyed it. But yeah, I was just like, cool, I'm going to go into bioengineering. Then I realized basically I absolutely hate maths.
You need that to...
Yeah.
Engineering part.
Yeah. So then I was like, oh, cool. For A-levels, I did, again, the wildest combination of... So when I did A-levels, you still had AS and A-levels. So I did history, drama, physics, and maths.
Oh!
Yeah, so very random. And then...
What a remix.
I dropped maths after year 12 because maths was... Never again. So I did physics, history, and maths. Now, those three are all subjects I was passionate. I'll also be honest, I didn't do subjects that I was like, oh, there's a career path in mind. I was like, I'm only going to study stuff I'm actually interested in doing.
Good at.
Exactly. So I was like, cool, I'll do those three. And then I was really thinking about what am I going to do at uni. And then my physics teacher was just like, oh, like if you enjoy sustainability, which I did, he was just like, why don't you look and go into like environmental sciences? He was like, it's an open-ended like career. There's a lot of things. So he was just like, it's a career where you may, like, you don't have to be in the lab. Like you could do community work with that. You could do policy work. You could work in a lab. You could do like community consulting, like all of this stuff. So he was just like, why don't you try that? So I did that and I did environmental science for my undergrad. Again, I was like, cool, maybe I'll be an environmental scientist. Hated the lab. The lab was the worst. For my dissertation, I only decided to do research because I was like, I will never be in the lab again. And then for my master's, I did sustainability, entrepreneurship, and design. And which again, random masters. But the combination of those three I liked because it was like three different subjects, but it has a merging. There's a link between all three of them. But also, I was just like, okay, so I know at least maybe like 5 different businesses that did that master's from my uni who went on to set up like big successful like companies. And I was like, cool, there must be like at least a ground level of understanding that they'll be taught here that I could engage with and I can learn and develop from. So I was like, cool, let's just do that. And then, when I like left, so for my master's and undergrad, I did placement years because again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, it's an extra year of uni, that should be fine. But then, I did, for my undergrad placement year, I did STEM outreach. So I'd go to schools and work with young people to encourage them to get into STEM, which was quite fun. And it was really cool because we worked with like young, like reception to like year 13. And then you'd see like, even like for like, I'm talking about like year 1 or 2 could understand stuff and do stuff quickly that like they're honestly they're year 9. It's like some of these year 2 students, like we had like activities they do quicker than like we getting year 9s who were doing it and they'd be like, I don't know what to do. But you're seeing like people in year... They're not fearless. I mean, that's why they are fearless. They don't have any sort of idea of like failure. They just put themselves out there. And they're just like, I want to just like, I'll do anything. Like, you're just like, figure this out. They're just like, cool, sick. Like, I'm just going to do it. I don't really need, like, we were just like, oh, maybe, do you need a hand? Do you need like some, most of them, no, I'm good. Like, just let me run. And then for my master's, I was working in basically helping undergrad students find placements. So I think from like essentially all of that to say, I think my younger self would enjoy my variety of career because now I've ended up in the creative industries. I now do pick up the mic. And I enjoy it. I still obviously have like my science background as well. But for me, I just like the fact that like I am not limited to my degree. Whereas with other, or like I'm not limited to like my career path. Whereas other degrees or like certain professions may mean that you can only like go into certain areas. I like that like I could leave my job today and then go into finance or tech if I wanted to, or I could leave my job today.
It's flexible.
Exactly. And I like the fact that like even like I was thinking about it recently, I was just like, so I've worked in higher education, I've worked in essentially like student outreach, I've worked in supporting young people. I did like 3 months, I did an internship like with the government working in environmental policy. So I've worked across like 3 different areas and I was just like, yeah, that's actually quite nice to be able to reflect on and think. Yeah,
that's really cool. I like that. And I think as well it's cool because even though you may not be working directly in science right now, there's so much that you can learn and gain from science, like organization, even things like research skills or hypothesis testing, like managing numbers, predictability. Like there's so much that you can kind of carry with you into creative or whatever you try to do outside of that. So 100%. It's pretty cool.
Well, I really appreciate that. Any other questions?
No, that's it really. I think those are 2 things that I was really keen to hear about. Thank you for answering them.
You're very welcome. We are going to go on to MC of the Month, which is an organisational individual who's doing incredible work linked to what we have been talking about today. And there we go. It has loaded, but it has now crashed. So give me 1 minute. Our organisation for today is the people who gave us the stats, Creative Access. So the UK's leading inclusivity organisation in the creative industries. They build practical programmes that open career access and help underrepresented talent thrive. So if you're interested in checking them out, please do check out their website. There's a whole list of programs you can find out about that may be relevant to you and help you to boost your creative careers if you're interested in the creative industries, even if you're just interested in seeing what the creative industries is. Because I think I mentioned it before, but I actually don't know where this picture is. So if I find it, it magically will appear on the screen, and if not, you'll have to look for it yourselves. But essentially, there's this incredible diagram about like what actually the creative industries is, because people think it's only like writing or film and TV, but they were just like, no, you've got creative tech, you've got creative agencies, you've got video games, you've got, like I mentioned, like writing, acting, you have podcasting was on there as well, and it was like, yeah, there's actually like loads of industries.
So many layers to it.
Exactly, and I think like you said about like you're saying about like the sciences, like there are skills that you can learn, even if you're not necessarily like you didn't study a creative degree. There are skills from your other degrees that you're like from your academic background that you can bring into the creative industry. So, like you said, like everyone needs to like. You're going to need to know money. So if you've done finance, I'm telling you, your creatives need help. There's an organization called Wallsman Creative who I met, and they basically focus on doing finance, like they're accountants for creatives.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and literally the founder was just like, oh yeah, the whole point of it existing was because I realized that creatives don't really understand like cash flows and profit and loss statements and all of this stuff. And she was just like, oh, well, why don't I just create this thing where specifically for creatives, I will help them to figure out all of their finances and their financial things that they need to be aware of. And I was like, yeah, that's great. Because technically, yes, she doesn't operate directly in the creative industries, but through her knowledge in accounting, she's been able to do that. You know, there's law firms that do stuff around creatives and like contracts, IP, trademark, all of this stuff. Trying to think of another degree. I mean, technically, and design is a creative degree. There's loads of other degrees you could use. You can research and check. But yeah, I would say check out Creative Access. They do incredible work. We've come to the second last segment before we wrap up. And Sophie, we've had an incredible conversation. And it's funny you asked me what I'm taking away from this conversation, because this is where I now ask you to do our takeaway segment. So we talked about a lot. What is one message you would like our audience to go home with?
There's so many things to think about.
We've now come to the end of the episode. So thank you very much, Sophie. It's been incredible hearing what you're doing. It's been incredible learning so much more about yourself.
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. This is your moment to plug yourself. So how can people connect? How can people connect with Kollab? Do you have any? I'll be honest, this episode, I need to figure out when it will come out. But if you have anything, let's say for the next 2 to 3 months, this is your opportunity to share it. Yeah, this is anything and everything. This is your time to let everyone know.
Okay, well, the Kollab Network Festival is at Kollab Network with a K on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. We will be launching a program really soon. We've got some fun dates. We're going to be launching that really, really soon. Just in the kind of final season of tidying up some few things. And you can find me on Instagram at Sophia Rinde, and Open Tab, which is at Open Tab with no E on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.
Perfect. Great. Well, thank you. And thank you to our wonderful audience for coming back. If you like this episode, like, comment, subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes of The Student Guide or anything else on the Pick Up the Mic YouTube channel, hit the notification bell at the bottom of the video. If you're watching on Spotify, I completely forget to add this all the time, but 5-star rating goes far. So thank you very much. If you want to receive discounts on our events, get some cool merch at discounted rate too, get episodes early and more, please check out either our YouTube channel membership, our Patreon page, or our Buy Us a Coffee page. We're across all of these 3 platforms. You don't have to, if you want to subscribe to all 3, thanks. But you can just pick one, and you can subscribe for the price of a coffee per month to one of those platforms, and that will essentially help us with our endeavors that we do, and incredible stuff that we've got in the works. If you want to check out our other YouTube channels, so that is Senseis of Anime for all our anime fans, that is Pick Up the Controller for our gaming fans, and the Two Maesters for our sci-fi, fantasy, comic book, and all things nerdy fans. You can check out those 3. If you head down from if you go to the homepage for Pick Up the Mic's YouTube channel, scroll down, you'll see under the For You, there's all 3 listed there. Subscribe, hit the notification bells on them, and then you won't miss any content on those channels too. And then 2 final things. First off, I don't know if I mentioned it in the last podcast. I may have, I may not, but I am able to say it now publicly. We are celebrating 5 years of the business. Thank you very much. And we are celebrating in person. At Somerset House. So we are collaborating with Somerset House again.
Sorry, we got higher and higher.
No, this is good. This is good. Thank you very much. So we have an incredible community event planned. We have incredible things that are coming for it. Okay. It'll be a wonderful evening. You'll get to. I'll send you the link. We'd love to have you there as well.
Okay.
It's open to everyone. It's completely free. There will be food and drink. Thank you. Yes, but please do make sure you're there, because actually, I've just realised I can't announce it. The last thing I was going to say, I cannot announce because it is going to be announced at the event. So if you want to hear what this final section of the podcast was going to be, come along 4th of June, 6 to 10 at Somerset House. We'll put the link in the show notes in the description below, but we'd love to have you there because we will be celebrating 5 years and talking about what the future of Pick Up the Mic is looking. But what I can tell you now is it's looking good. So if you want to make sure that you find out, come along on to the event. We're going to close this chapter of the Student Guide. It's been great. It's been great talking to you, Sophie.
Thank you for having me.
And keep an eye out for the next episode. So we'll see you all shortly, and have a wonderful day.
Bye.